Sometimes, life changes in a single heartbeat, one decision, one act of courage, one moment that rewrites everything you thought you knew. That's how this story begins, and if you stay till the end, you'll see why people around the world are calling this the most powerful story of redemption and faith they've ever heard. Before you go, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because stories like this remind us that miracles still happen in the most unexpected ways. It was late evening when Daniel Brooks, a single father of one, was driving back home from his shift at the local diner. His uniform still smelled like burnt coffee and fried onions, but all he could think about was his little boy, Noah, waiting by the window. They had a ritual every night. Noah would stay up just to hear his dad's knock at the door. The two of them didn't have much: a one-bedroom apartment, second-hand toys, and dreams that barely stretched past next week's rent, but they had love. And sometimes, that's all that kept them going. Rain poured down hard that night, drumming on the old pickup truck's windshield as Daniel took the shortcut past the small airfield near the coast. That's when he saw it, a fireball slicing through the sky, followed by a deafening crash. For a moment, he thought it was lightning until he saw flames erupting in the distance. His heart froze. Without thinking, he swerved off the road and sped toward the crash site. The wreckage was chaos: twisted metal, burning debris, and the unmistakable shape of a private jet sinking nose-first into the marshy ground. Daniel could hear screams. The rain was hissing as it hit the fire, and the air smelled of smoke and fuel. He didn't hesitate. He jumped into the freezing, waist-deep water and fought his way toward the wreck. Through the cracked window, he saw a man unconscious, blood streaming down his face. Daniel broke the glass with a rock, reached in, and dragged him out just as part of the fuselage exploded behind them. The shockwave knocked them both into the mud. For a second, Daniel thought he wouldn't make it, but then he saw the man's hand twitch. He wasn't dead. Not yet. It took everything Daniel had to pull him to safety. His arms burned, his lungs screamed, but he refused to give up. By the time the fire trucks and ambulances arrived, Daniel was covered in mud and blood, his own and the strangers'. When the paramedics asked for his name, he just said, "Doesn't matter. Just take care of him." Then he disappeared into the night, driving home to a sleeping son and an empty fridge. The next morning, Daniel didn't tell anyone. He went to work like nothing had happened. He couldn't afford to miss a shift. The diner's manager was already threatening to cut his hours, and Noah's school fees were overdue. Life went on, the same grind, the same quiet resilience. But fate had other plans. Around noon, as Daniel was pouring coffee for a regular, 3 sleek black Cadillacs pulled up outside the diner. Everyone turned to look. The doors opened, and out stepped a man in a tailored suit with a small bandage on his forehead. His eyes scanned the room until they landed on Daniel. "You," he said softly. "You saved my life." The diner went silent. Daniel froze, the coffee pot still in his hand. The man introduced himself: Alexander Reed. Billionaire. CEO of one of the largest tech companies in the country. The man whose plane had gone down. Daniel didn't know what to say. He just shrugged and said, anyone would have done the same. But Alexander shook his head. No. They wouldn't have. He sat with Daniel for hours that day, learning about his life, his struggles, his son. Daniel spoke quietly, almost embarrassed, but Alexander listened like every word mattered. Before he left, he handed Daniel a card and said, "Expect a call." The next morning, that call came. Alexander offered him a job, not a pity position, but one that recognized his integrity and bravery. Head of Security Operations at ReedTech. A 6-figure salary. Health insurance for him and Noah. A fresh start. Daniel hesitated at first. It all seemed too good to be real. But when he saw Noah smiling for the first time in months, holding a brand new backpack for school that Alexander had sent, he knew this was the miracle they'd been waiting for. Months passed. Daniel flourished in his new role. For the first time, he could give Noah the life he'd always dreamed of: piano lessons, a warm home, new shoes that actually fit. Alexander and Daniel grew close, not as employer and employee, but as friends, as brothers bound by something far deeper than circumstance. One evening, Alexander invited Daniel to a company gala. Standing before hundreds of people, Alexander shared the story of the man who saved his life. His voice trembled as he pointed to Daniel and said, "He didn't just pull me out of a burning jet, he pulled me back into what really matters. Humanity. Compassion. Gratitude." The audience rose to their feet, clapping until Daniel's eyes filled with tears. For a man who had once been invisible, a single father struggling to survive, the world finally saw him. But perhaps the most powerful moment came later that night, when Alexander quietly handed Daniel a folder. Inside was the deed to a house, a modest, sunlit home with a backyard for Noah to play in. "No strings," Alexander said. "You gave me a second chance at life. I'm just returning the favor." Daniel tried to speak, but the words broke in his throat. All he could do was hug the man whose life he had saved, a man who, in return, had saved his. And that's how fate works. One selfless act, one leap into the unknown, can ripple across lives in ways we can't imagine. So if you're watching this right now, if you've ever felt invisible, tired, or forgotten, remember Daniel's story. You never know when your moment will come. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but when it does, it will change everything. Because kindness doesn't just save others. It saves you too. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel because we believe in real stories, real people, and the power of one choice to change a life forever.